All right, let's jump right into this explainer and bust a massive myth about the economics of owning a thrift store. You know the one. You rent a space, put up some racks, collect free clothes, and literally just watch the money roll in. Sounds like a dream, right? I mean, zero cost of goods. But as we're going to see today, that assumption is, well, it's pretty much entirely wrong.
So, is selling free stuff actually a good business? It's completely logical to think that getting your inventory for absolutely nothing equals pure, unfiltered profit. But the reality? A thrift store's real business isn't selling old stuff at all. It's actually about managing extreme, nonstop uncertainty. Because every single trash bag of clothes dropped at the back door, it's a total mystery box. This right here perfectly captures the core disconnect most people have about the industry. The myth is that free inventory equals pure profit, but the reality is every single donated item costs money to process. Just think about how wild this is for a second. Tomorrow's inventory doesn't exist in a warehouse or on a cargo ship. It is literally sitting in someone's closet right now, and they haven't even decided to donate it yet. A normal retailer just calls a supplier and orders what they need. A thrift store? They have to wait for us to clean out our garages. And turning that highly unpredictable, completely free donation into a product on a rack? That is incredibly expensive. Let's put a hard number on that expense. $2.50. A cheap, low-quality shirt can easily rack up $2.50 in cumulative labor and handling costs before a customer even looks at it. It has to be received, sorted, inspected, cleaned, priced, tagged, and walked out to the floor. If that same shirt sits there for 3 weeks and finally sells for $2, the store didn't make money. They actually lost money. The donation was free, sure, but the labor to make it sellable absolutely was not.
Section 1. Inside the Hidden Factory, which is all about the costly chain of paid labor.
You know, when we walk into a store, we just see little price tags and nicely color-coordinated racks, but we completely miss these 4 crucial steps happening in the back. Donations get dumped into a sorting hopper. Workers separate soft goods from hard goods, tossing broken stuff right away. Then things are graded. Premium boutique items are pulled out, electronics get safety tested, and finally they price and stage it. And here's the kicker. Every single hour an item sits untouched in this multi-step process, it earns absolutely nothing while taking up really expensive physical space. In this game, speed isn't just a luxury, speed is survival. This brings us to a super fascinating point. Workers do not really transform the physical object at all. What they create is information. Think about a traditional factory. They physically turn raw materials into a finished product. But in a thrift store, the real economic value is created by an experienced sorter simply recognizing things. They aren't just checking if a jacket is clean. They're spotting a hidden designer label or realizing that a dusty old piece of Pyrex glassware is actually a highly sought-after vintage collectible. That well-trained eye, it's the difference between pricing something at $4 versus $150.
Moving on to Section 2, the art of pricing, or hunting for profitable randomness. This is the actual financial engine keeping the whole shebang afloat. Imagine a single donation box. Inside, you've got 50 ordinary shirts and 1 vintage handbag. Those 50 shirts might sell for $3 to $5 each, which, as we saw, barely covers the backroom labor. But that handbag? It costs the store $0 to acquire, and it can easily be priced anywhere from $100 to $300. That single sale pays a massive chunk of the month's rent. The harsh reality is most items barely break even. It's a tiny handful of jackpot items carrying the entire operation on their backs. Since there's no manufacturer's catalog for random used junk, pricing is basically a system of highly controlled guessing, and getting it wrong is super costly. Price an item too high, it just sits there collecting dust and wasting valuable floor space. Price it too low, and a professional reseller with a scanner app on their phone scoops it up in 30 seconds to make 10 times the profit online. It is a wildly delicate balancing act.
Section 3. The fast fashion problem and the quality collapse reshaping the industry. Decades ago, clothes were built with heavy natural fabrics and solid stitching to last for years. Today, our closets are flooded with ultra-cheap, synthetic, fast fashion that's basically meant to last a single season and then fall apart. And the impact on thrift stores is staggering. In some regions, up to 75% of incoming clothing donations are considered completely unsellable. They never even touch a hanger. They just get routed straight to textile salvage to be sold by the pound or shipped overseas.
In a normal retail environment, a huge wave of new inventory means business is booming. But for a thrift store, An uncontrolled flood of this unsellable, low-quality junk can literally break the operation. When the volume outpaces what the staff can actually process, the backroom instantly clogs up. Workers end up wasting time just shuffling pallets out of the way instead of actually sorting. Storage costs shoot up, and in really extreme cases, stores are forced to do the unthinkable. They completely refuse donations and tape up their drop-off bins.
Section 4. The real thrift store math and why the margins are razor thin.
All right, I want you to ask yourself a quick question. What is the absolute biggest threat to a thrift store? If you're like most of us, you're probably thinking shoplifting, right? Someone stuffing a jacket into a backpack and walking out. Well, prepare to be surprised. It actually isn't shoplifting. It's time. Time itself is the biggest, most expensive, and honestly most invisible threat to this entire business model. Slow-moving inventory is quietly draining money every single day. A shirt just hanging on a rack doesn't set off a security alarm, but it's eating up square footage that costs daily rent, and it requires constant labor to retag and tidy up. It is literally just money leaking out of the business, one unsold item at a time. To fight this relentless threat of time, well-run stores use what's known as a markdown cascade. Check this out. A new item starts at full price for week 1. By week 2, boom, 25% off. Week 3, 50% off. If it somehow survives to week 4, it gets tossed in the 99-cent bin. And by week 5, it is gone, sold in bulk or shipped overseas to salvage. This strict cascade forces incredibly fast turnover and creates a massive sense of urgency. It basically tells the shopper, hey, if you don't buy this right now, it is going to be gone tomorrow.
Let's actually crunch the numbers on a modest store bringing in 20 grand a month. Industry data tells us operating costs like rent, labor, disposal fees eat up between 40 and 60% of gross revenue. In a good month with awesome donations and fast turnover, costs sit around 40%, or $8,000, leaving a really solid $12,000 in net profit. But what happens in a bad month when fast fashion clogs the back room and inventory just sits there? Those operating costs easily balloon to 60%. Suddenly, your profit shrinks to $8,000. And if revenue slips even a tiny bit during that bad month, the profit drops to practically zero. Success in this business relies entirely on two things the owner has zero control over: the quality of what gets dropped off and how fast they can get it out the door.
Section 5. Selling the treasure hunt. Manufacturing value out of clutter.
Despite the razor-thin margins and chaotic supply chain, well over 75% of all secondhand clothing spending still happens in person, inside physical stores. And there's a reason for that. A thrift store isn't really just selling used shirts and old blenders. It's selling an experience. It's the thrill of discovery. It's sustainability for folks wanting to keep things out of landfills. And it's essential affordability for families on a budget. It's nostalgia for old styles. But above all else, it sells the hope of a hidden jackpot, that unpredictable reward system where today might just be the day you find a vintage masterpiece priced like absolute garbage. It is an in-person, gamified treasure hunt that you just cannot perfectly replicate on a phone screen.
Which leaves us with one final, pretty remarkable question. How does a business recycle value out of the exact same things everyone else decided to throw away? The secret is that value in secondhand goods doesn't stay fixed. It shifts with culture. An ugly sweater from a decade ago is a highly desirable vintage piece today. The physical object hasn't changed one bit, but its economic value has skyrocketed. The most valuable thing inside a thrift store was never the merchandise on the racks. It was always the ability to look at a giant pile of clutter and see value where everyone else had simply stopped looking. So, the next time you walk through those thrift store doors, what hidden value are you going to discover?